We officially got to see the Aggies on the field for fall camp. What can we take away from the first day of practice?
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in the Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Happy Friday, folks. Hope everybody had a good week of work, whatever you got going on, school. Hope everybody had a great week. First thing I want to say, for those listening on YouTube, I'm not a Bills fan. This is a Josh Allen shirt, and he won me 2 straight fantasy championships. Wanted to get that out of the way quick. Fall camp is here. We've seen the Aggies all on the field practicing. Let's talk about it a little bit. I don't think there was much. There was one thing that came as a surprise for me, and I'm gonna get straight into that. It's Jake Johnson was the tight end, kind of was going out as the first tight end in most drills. I can't say that like I'm upset about this. I mean, Johnson's a talented guy, obviously, as we know, highly ranked guy. But I'm a big Donovan Green guy, so I'm not super stoked. Donovan Green's not the guy right now. Now, listen, the other big thing we have got to get out of the way when talking about fall camp is this stuff is not final. A lot's going to happen. A lot's going to change. So we saw Connor Weigman run out first today. Maybe tomorrow you see Max Johnson run out first, folks. This stuff is going to change all the time. It's interesting to see how that kind of pans out. So until I see an official depth chart, which will come out, the day of the first game, maybe a day or two before, I am not going to be too quick to be concerned either which way with some of these developments. But Johnson was the first tight end to run out there. So the offensive line we saw run out there was Trey Zune at left tackle, Dewberry at left guard. We saw a little bit of Mark Naboo switching in and out as well a little bit. Bryce Foster at center, Layden Robinson at right guard, and Chase Bisontis at right tackle because Reuben Fothery got a little banged up in the end of spring, according to Coach Fisher in his little his press conference prior to practice. Fothery's going to be good to go. It's nothing. It sounds like it's nothing to be concerned about. He's just got to clear some stuff up and work his way back into the flow of things. I'm not concerned about Fothery. He's the guy. But one of the main things we talked about yesterday is this is the time to stay healthy. There was no reason to rush somebody out there, get somebody hurt, let Fothery come back, let him come back at his own pace, get healthy. I'm completely fine with that. I have no concerns about that. He's played before. He knows he played in the spring. He's learning Petrino's system. I'm not concerned about it. Let him get back. It's all going to be good in the hood. But I think Chase Bisontis is a good player that is going to be fine if Fothery doesn't progress like we plan. I think Bisontis goes in and we're just fine. So that was the offensive line. Of course, Weigman was out there first. Jake Johnson was the tight end to start. And then we saw Evan Stewart and Moose Muhammad run out with the wide receivers. Now, I mean, like I say, folks, I don't know what they were running. I don't know what this was. All I know is that when they were starting to run drills, that's who they had out there. And then at this time, the running back was Amari Daniels. So that was the other thing Coach Fisher talked about. In our second segment today, we're going to kind of get into some of the things Coach Fisher said before practice, some different quotes. But Coach Fisher, that's one of the things we'll get into in just a little bit, but I'll kind of preface it right now. Coach Fisher made it clear that, these running backs, it's going to be a 3-4 headed monster. So the other thing I have highlighted here is David Bailey. At Media Days in Nashville, that was the question I asked Coach Fisher when he was up on the big stage was, hey, Coach, talk about the running back room. You lose A-Chain, you lose a lot of your carries. You bring in Reuben Owens, and you bring in Bailey from the portal. But besides that, it's Daniels and Le'Veon Moss who were on the team last year. Didn't get a ton of carries. So what's the room look like? And he responded to me and was quick to praise those three, praise Amari Daniels, praise Le'Veon Moss and Reuben Owens. But he said, don't forget about, David Bailey. He said he's going to be a guy. David Bailey, of course, the Colorado State transfer who played previously with offensive line coach Steve Adazio. So, folks, I think don't forget about David Bailey. Whatever his role ends up being, if he's the short yardage guy, I think that's more of what his kind of role would look like if I had to guess. But it's interesting to see. I kind of said this a few months ago, saying like I wouldn't be surprised if he was a short yardage guy, but I wasn't expecting, you know what I mean? Like it was one of those things where like I predicted it because I could see it happening, but like it was a slim margin prediction. I didn't think it was going to be any kind of guarantee. So that was a little interesting that he was out there getting reps early into fall camp. So, like I said, Fothry's coming back soon. I guess takeaways, the number one takeaway, and I mean, when it comes to fall camp, spring, whatever it is, you're always going to have people get hype about stuff quickly. It seems like there is a lot of positivity right now flowing through Texas A&M Twitter about the offensive line. I mean, I watched the tape, folks. We saw the tape. They look solid. I know they weren't doing anything crazy, but it's just kind of the buzz. I mean, they look like they sure of themselves out there. They look like they know what they're doing. We have some players. We're going to talk about some weight gains and losses in the third segment today, but everybody's looking good. People are getting into shape. I'm excited about this offensive line. And I mean, sitting here talking about Mark DeBoo, talking about Chase Basantis, you got some guys that can come in and play. That was obviously a concern last year. Coach Fisher talked a lot about in his press conference. He was talking about, offensive lines position. You have to kind of been there, done that. You have to develop. You have to understand the playbook. You have to understand how others play, schemes, stuff like that. It's not an easy position to come in and play immediately. So a lot of guys were kind of thrown into the fire last year with thanks to some injuries. And I think assuming people stay healthy, you're not going to have that issue this year. This offensive line, you got like 75 career starts between these guys. It's an older group. Older groups win football games. That's what this offensive line is. When it comes to the quarterbacks, I got to see some throws from Max Johnson, Connor Weigman, and true freshman Marcel Reed. I was impressed all around, folks. I think now, of course, you're throwing against air. I mean, I think I could go out there and look pretty dang good throwing against air. I'm kidding. That was supposed to be a joke. But maybe not. I don't know. We'll have to test that one day. But Connor Weigman, I thought he looked solid. He was getting some throws downfield that looked good. I mean, what I care about when you're throwing against air is put the ball where it needs to be thrown. If you can't put the ball on the money against air, I am terrified, because if you can't do it to just a receiver running down the field, we got issues. Everybody looked pretty solid. There was only the one throw I saw. It was Marcel Reed, and he threw one a little bit behind a receiver, but it wasn't behind enough that I was super upset about it. But this quarterback room, folks, I'm telling you, it's deep. I think Marcel Reed's going to be a dude when it's his turn to quarterback the Aggies down the road. But Connor Weigman, I was excited based off the tape I saw of him. I mean, he's putting throws on the money, and that's what matters, folks. I mean, I get it. The biggest part of playing quarterback is decision-making. Are you throwing it to the right guy? Are you avoiding double teams? Different things like that, footwork. But the footwork and stuff looked good when he was throwing against air, and I think that's a good first step. You want to look solid against air first, and then against defense second. So everything I saw, I feel good about this offensive line, quarterback room. The only thing, like I said, folks, I was a little surprised about was the fact that Jake Johnson ran out there as the tight end one in this scenario. Now, like I said, Donovan Green, whatever happens, I think Donovan Green still has a role. I think Max Wright still has a role. I think you see a lot of tight ends mix in and out, but Jake Johnson was the guy. I was a little surprised by that, folks, to be honest with you. I still think Donovan Green is going to end up being the tight end one, but we'll just have to see. I could be wrong. We'll have to see how that pans out. Not like Jake Johnson's bad. I've had people in the comments previously saying, hey, I don't think you're talking enough about Jake Johnson. And folks who said that, you were right. But we'll see how that pans out. That's the fun about fall camp is we still have a lot of days left. So we're going to hopefully get more into that soon. So now let's get into some of the comments Coach Fisher made up on the podium addressing Texas A&M media about the season. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff here. We're going to get into that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. I love LinkedIn, folks. Truly, it's a great service. It's a free service. If you're hiring, if you're looking for a job, it's a win-win for everybody. I used it. My friends use it. Family uses it. It's a great all-around app. Go give it a chance. I promise you will not regret it. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. So, folks, some quotes from Coach Fisher. First thing I want to highlight, which I think is always good, is he talked about how much of a leader Ainias Smith is. I think that's a big deal. To me, leadership in athletics is a big deal. You always want to be a leader. And, there's different types of leaders. There's vocal leaders. There's silent leaders, lead by example, do what I do. People that, are more vocal. And Ainias Smith to me seems like a vocal leader, but it's all beside the point. It's just exciting to see that he is a leader. You always want somebody in that locker room who's going to step up. Just talking to McKinley Jackson, I haven't heard Coach Fisher say this, but I think McKinley Jackson's a leader. Because bring him to media days. I talked to him a little bit more than I talked to Phil Diggs at media days, but McKinley Jackson, just well-spoken young man, good person, likes to talk to, it was fun talking to him. He's a good guy. I really appreciated getting to ask him a few questions. I didn't get to talk to Ainias Smith and Phil Diggs as much, but Ainias Smith, what I've seen, what I know about him, same thing there. So I think that's good to have leaders in the locker room, respectable, good guys that are out there, just good players who love Texas A&M, want to represent it well on a day-to-day basis. That's what you want. And I think that's what we have here with Ainias Smith and McKinley Jackson, Phil Diggs, obviously those guys. Coach Fisher brought them to Nashville for a reason, and I think it's because they're leaders. Another comment, this one's more funny than important, but someone asked Coach Fisher about, is Coach Petrino kind of been level-headed? Is he getting grumpy? What's that kind of look like? And Coach Fisher was like, well, he hasn't really had a reason to be grumpy yet. So I guess what I'm taking away from that is Coach Petrino, I wouldn't mess up Aggie football players because I think Coach Petrino is not going to let you live it down. So we talked yesterday on Locked On Aggies about I don't like quarterback battles. I don't like it. Now partially because I think Weigman's the guy. He's my guy. I like quarterback battles in spring. I don't like them in fall. I want this to be nipped in the bud, and that is not going to happen. Coach Fisher made that very clear that there's no timetable for this quarterback battle to be done. And I'm going to read some quotes here in a minute about Connor Weigman. So I'll go ahead and read those right now. But the first thing I'll tell you is it really seems like Coach Fisher does not say a ton of positive stuff about Connor Weigman. I just like when you read the quotes, it's nothing super like, yeah, Connor looked amazing. Everything he did, passes were fluid. He's been great. So I'll read you these quotes and we'll kind of get more into it here. But so he said, so Jimbo Fisher on quarterback Connor Weigman. He won't be hesitant to throw the ball in some areas where you can make plays because he's got some guys who can go and get it. He came out of spring well, so hopefully he'll go into fall well. And this was on Texas Ags. And then you got another quote about Connor Weigman. He had 8 touchdowns with no interceptions. He was making plays when he was making the right decisions, which was very good. At the end of the day, quarterbacking is about making the right decisions and accuracy. So, to me, those are positive quotes. I think that, it's a great point. No interceptions last year for Connor Weigman. As a true freshman to come in, and I say get thrown into the fire. I think when you have to come in and quarterback an SEC football team as a true freshman, you've been thrown in the fire. He didn't make many mistakes, a handful of touchdowns. I was impressed with what he did, and I think he's going to have a good year this year. But I don't think this quarterback battle is going to go away anytime soon. I don't like that. I know Coach Fisher, it's his. He's the head football coach of Texas A&M. I am not. I get that. I respect that. Whatever he can do to make this football team win more games, I am behind it 100%. I personally am not a fan of this. I'm curious of your all's thoughts in the comments. Do you all like letting the quarterback battle kind of ride until like a week before the season? Or are you all fans of let us know who the guy is, let them be the guy, get the reps, stuff like that? Let me know in the YouTube comments. I'm anti letting the quarterback battle ride. Personally, I'm curious to know what you all think on that. But that's what's going to happen, folks. This quarterback battle is not going away anytime soon. So we'll just kind of have to see how that pans out. I think that Weigman wins the job. Like I said, he ran out there first today, which, I mean, to me, that means there's obviously a perceived lead for Connor Weigman if you're running out there with the ones. So we'll see how it pans out. I think that it's going to be Weigman's job to lose. And then a little bit back to the running back room. Like I said, Coach Fisher made it very clear that this is an open battle. Anybody can win, stuff like that. Mari Daniels went out there first in practice. Then you saw a lot of handoffs to Reuben Owens, to Le'Veon Moss, and to David Bailey. I think we're going to see all of those guys in some capacity. I don't think we see David Bailey as much as the three others. I think if I had to get, so there's 12 games in a season, not including postseason. Let's say Bailey gets a couple carries a game. He gets let's say 30 carries on the year, I think is his ceiling. I'd be wrong there. They could use him more than I expect. But here's the deal. If he's a short yardage guy, use him as much as you need him. 3rd and 1, if David Bailey's the guy that you say 3rd and 1, he's going to pick up this yard, run him until he can't run anymore. Because you have enough guys. Plenty of running backs in this room, which is a good thing. I've talked about how Coach Petrino historically likes to spread the ball out, spread the carries out. So do it. Keep everybody healthy. Keep everybody fresh. I think it's a great plan all around. A comment that Layden Robinson made, which I thought was interesting, talking a little bit about the Coach Petrino style of offense, is the tempo. I think you're going to see more tempo from this Texas A&M offense this season, which I'm a fan of. I think you have to have a good balance of tempo and good play calling. There's the old offenses where you just bam, 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 no huddle stuff. I like the offense Petrino runs, and it's good to hear that some of these offensive players that are up on the podium talking about it agree. So I think that's another positive. Another quote here. So Coach Fisher was talking about how he thinks this team does the little things well. I like hearing that because when I hear that, we talked this week on Locked On Aggies about how you'll see how last year the Aggies had 30 first down penalties. That is not doing the little things. I think if this team does the little things right, you get rid of penalties. I think that leads to wins. You're in the right position. You don't make the mental errors. Not making mental errors wins football games. So I think hearing that Coach Fisher thinks that this team does the little things right, it sounds like a little nitpicky thing that doesn't matter. That to me is a positive quote for the outlook of this football team. And then last little quote here, which is interesting. Coach Fisher had a lot of praise for Walter Nolan. He's dropped some weight, but he's still playing the same position. He can work around the defensive line a little bit. I think he's in for a big year. So Coach Fisher was really gassing him up, saying a lot of positives about Walter Nolan, which is a good thing because, like I said, he's too talented to not work into a starting role, to not be the guy. So lots of positives, folks, from day one of fall camp. We're going to be talking a lot of fall camp next week and on. And folks, let's think about this. The first game's on the 2nd. So that means the tail end of August, we are going to be starting to get to talk about a football game. So we are getting close, folks. But first day of practice, lots of things to be excited about. We'll, of course, talk more about this as the weeks go on. But now we're going to move into some weight gains and losses that are going to help Texas A&M be better this year. You like players that need to gain some muscle or players need to drop some pounds, get into better shape. We have these statistics on that now. We got them from Carter Carls from 24/7 Sports. So we're going to talk about that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to talk about our wonderful friends over at eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is the perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits just right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check mark to know the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. So, folks, Carter Carrolls, I want to make sure I got his name right, of 24/7 Sports, posted the weight gains and weight losses for this 2023 Texas A&M roster. This is a big deal. I mean, like, if you got a player that maybe has a little bit too many pounds on that you'd like, or a player, I want that guy to bulk up a little bit, it's a big deal. So we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to talk a little bit of average recruit ranking. But so, notable weight gains. We got Kerr put on 20 pounds, Gilbert put on 15, Cronover put on 15, Anai Smith put on 10, Anai White put on 10, Malik Silla put on 10, Le'Veon Moss put on 10, Johnson put on 10, Matthews put on 10, Walter Nolan dropped 30 pounds. That's what we were talking about just a minute ago. 30 pounds, folks. That's a big deal. Like, I think that shows not only that he's in for a big season, but also the fact that I think, frankly, what this says to me is that Walter Nolan, it's just discipline. It's like, I need to drop a few pounds to be a better football player. That's what Walter Nolan felt he needed to do, and that's what he did, folks. I think this is a sign of a positive to come for Walter Nolan this season, and that just further gives me confidence of the massive year Walter Nolan is going to put together for Texas A&M. LT Overton dropped 15 pounds. Reuben Fothery dropped 15 pounds. Shamar Turner dropped 10 pounds. Moose added 10 pounds. And Mark Naboo dropped 20 pounds. So I think all this, folks, I mean, the reason I think this is relevant, gaining weight, to me, it's kind of like you really want to be in a position to be in the best athletic shape to be out there and play football. My experience playing football, I don't think people that haven't played fully understand so I played left tackle and left guard in high school, and I was kind of late to football. I didn't play. I played hockey growing up and baseball. So football, I started in high school. And freshman year, I always thought, as an offensive lineman, if you're making it's not that tiring. It's like, okay, you make your play, you stop. A football drive is the most tiring workout I have ever been a part of. Just doing a drive, blocking downfield, next play, blocking downfield, next play, 10, 15 play drive. I mean, it will kick your behind. So, I mean, you have to be in peak athletic form to succeed on the football field. And I think that's why seeing some of these players, seeing Mark Naboo drop 20 pounds, Fothery drop 10 pounds, it's a good thing. We talked about a few months ago how Texas A&M's offensive line was kind of in that perfect area of height and weight, but they had room to drop some weight and still be in that area as a whole, kind of like that 310 to 320 pound range I like offensive linemen in. Fothery's a taller guy, a little bit, so he brought himself down into that range. I like to see that. I think it shows discipline. I think it's an all-around great thing to see football players, adding, gaining, losing, gaining weight, whatever they need to succeed on the field that year. So that's what we saw. I mean, so that's a great stat from our friend over at 24/7 Sports, bringing all of that to us. So seeing that is great. And the last thing we're going to talk about today before we call it a week here on Locked On Aggies, folks, is where the Aggies stand in average recruit ranking. I think this is the number one stat when it comes to recruiting. This is from On3. So they have Texas A&M's 2024 class sitting at 12 right now. But if you look at average recruit ranking, they are 7th. Their average recruit ranking is 90.60, which has them 7th in the nation. Their class is at 12. So that says to me, this team, if your average recruit ranking, I think, is higher than your class ranking, that means that you are taking more of a quality over quantity approach. I mean, look at Texas A&M. You got big-time recruits in Cam Coleman, 5-star, Draylon Miller, high 4-star, Dalen Evans, high 4-star. I mean, you got a lot of talent in this 2024 class, folks. I think people need to be terrified of what this class can bring to the table. And there's more to come. I mean, we've talked about it. Terry Bussey, is he coming soon? Are we going to see him pop soon? I really hope so. I'm starting to not like the fact that he hasn't committed yet. I'm not worried about it, but I just want to see him pull the trigger. I want it to be done. But folks, I mean, seeing a class 7 average recruit ranking, and I think that the only way this is going to go is up, folks. I don't think Texas A&M and Coach Fisher is near done with this 2024 class. I think you're going to see this thing shoot up. I still think it's going to finish top 5. So love to see that. I really do. I mean, this class is going to be something else. I'm really excited to see how all that pans out. But folks, that is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. I really, really appreciate you all tuning in. I hope everybody has an outstanding weekend. It's raining today. I'm not a fan of that. But listen, it would if you I always like to let everybody know I'm everywhere. Wherever you can find me on YouTube. You can find me wherever you get your podcasts. I always like to say that because I know for me, like if I ever listen to a podcast, sometimes I'll listen on YouTube and sometimes I'll be driving and want to listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get it, folks. So those of you YouTube listeners, if you're ever on the road, on a road trip and you're like, oh, I want to listen to Locked On Aggies, you can find me anywhere you get your podcasts. If you're a listener on a podcast platform and you ever want to watch on YouTube, I'm here at YouTube too. I always want to make sure you all know all that I am wherever you think you can find me, you can find me. So like I say, folks, one more time, I really appreciate you all tuning in every day. It means the world to me to be able to do this. We are almost to football. Everybody get excited. I hope you all have an outstanding weekend, have a ton of fun, and we will be back with another brand new episode of Locked On Aggies coming to you on Monday. Have a great weekend, and we will see you next time